The morning alarm echoed through the corridors of the TSV Endeavour, a sound that had woken countless cadets over the past 50 years. The old ship groaned as it moved through space, its metal hull bearing the scars of decades of service before being converted into a training vessel. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, watching her 200 senior cadets prepare for what she believed would be just another routine exercise. All stations report ready. Commander, announced Cadet Captain Marcus Torres, his voice carrying the crisp authority that the Academy had drilled into him over 4 years of training. At 22, Torres was one of the older cadets, having spent 2 years working in civilian shipping before deciding to join the Terran Naval Academy. His experience with real spacecraft made him a natural choice for the command position during exercises. Chen nodded, studying the holographic displays that showed the Kepler 442 system around them. It was a perfect training ground, far from any major shipping lanes with enough asteroids and gas clouds to make navigation challenging. The system had been designated as a military training zone for the past decade, and Chen had run dozens of exercises here without incident. "Begin exercise Omega-7, she commanded, settling into her observer's chair. The exercise was designed to test everything the cadets had learned about fleet combat tactics, resource management, and leadership under pressure. They would face waves of holographic enemy ships, each more challenging than the last. Cadet Torres turned to his fellow officers. "Engineering, report status." "All systems green," replied Cadet Engineer Lisa Park, her fingers dancing across the control panels. At 19, Park was the youngest cadet on the bridge, but her understanding of starship systems was already legendary among her classmates. She had grown up on a space station, learning to fix everything from life support systems to faster-than-light drives before she could properly read. "Engines running at optimal efficiency, weapon systems charged and ready." "Communications?" Torres asked. "All channels clear," responded Cadet Jamie Okafor, adjusting his headset. "Long-range sensors show nothing but background radiation and asteroid fields. We have clear communication with Academy Control." Torres smiled. The bridge felt alive with energy as his fellow cadets took their positions. Navigation Officer Cadet Williams plotted courses around asteroid clusters. Tactical Officer Cadet Rodriguez prepared defensive formations. Sensor Operator Cadet Kim monitored for the first wave of enemy projections. Each of them had trained for this moment, studying battle tactics that dated back to the early days of human space exploration. "Remember," Commander Chen announced to the bridge crew, "this exercise will test your ability to work as a team under stress. The enemy projections are programmed to behave like real opponents. They will adapt to your tactics and exploit any weaknesses they find. Your job is to protect the Endeavour and complete your mission objectives." The cadets nodded seriously. They had heard stories from graduates about exercise Omega-7. It was famous for being one of the most challenging tests the Academy offered. Many cadets failed it on their first attempt, requiring additional training before they could try again. "First wave incoming," announced Cadet Kim, her voice steady despite the excitement building on the bridge. 3 light cruisers approaching from bearing 27 Mark IV. Torres studied the tactical display. The holographic enemy ships moved with mechanical precision, following standard attack patterns that the cadets had studied in their textbooks. "All hands battle stations. Helm, bring us about to bearing 30 Mark VI. Let's give them a moving target." The Endeavour responded smoothly to the helm controls. Despite being an old ship, she had been well maintained by generations of Academy engineers. Her artificial gravity systems hummed quietly, keeping the crew comfortable even as the ship executed sharp turns that would have been impossible. "Under natural physics, weapons range in 30 seconds, reported Cadet Rodriguez from the tactical. "Station, fire when ready," Torres ordered. "Let's see what these cadets can do." The bridge erupted in controlled chaos as the exercise began in earnest. Weapons fire lit up the view screen as the Endeavour engaged the holographic enemies. The ship's defensive systems activated automatically, protecting them from simulated return fire. Damage reports scrolled across screens as the computer calculated the effects of hits and near misses. What none of them knew was that their exercise was being watched. Far, beyond the range of the Endeavour's sensors, a massive alien vessel hung in the darkness of space. The Void Render belonged to the hegemony of Sectar, a confederation of warrior species that had dominated this region of the galaxy for over 1,000 years. The ship's hull was covered in angular armor plates that seemed to absorb light, making it nearly invisible against the starfield. On the bridge of the Void Render, Admiral Thexvor studied the displays showing the human vessel. The Sectar were a proud race, standing nearly 8 feet tall with 4 arms and skin that shifted color based on their emotional state. Right now, Thexvor's skin showed the dark red of anticipation and the yellow streaks of curiosity. The humans perform their war dances, observed his tactical officer, watching the Endeavor's maneuvers. Their movements are adequate. Thexvor clicked his mandibles in agreement. The Sectar had been monitoring human expansion into this region for months, studying their technology and military capabilities. What they had seen so far suggested that humans were competent but unremarkable, another young species that would either submit to Sectar dominance or be conquered. Their vessel appears to be a military cruiser, reported the sensor operator. Displacement approximately 50,000 tons, armed with particle beam weapons and missile systems. Standard configuration for their fleet. The Admiral studied the tactical readouts. According to their intelligence, human military doctrine emphasized mobility and adaptability over raw firepower. Their ships were generally smaller and faster than Sectar vessels, relying on hit-and-run tactics rather than direct confrontation. It was a sensible approach for a species that was still relatively new to galactic warfare. Prepare the ship for combat, Thexvor ordered. We will test these humans ourselves. If they prove worthy, we may offer them terms for surrender. If not, he let the threat hang in the air. The Void Render's crew moved with practiced efficiency. Weapon systems that could reduce a planet to ash powered up with mechanical precision. Defensive screens that could deflect the firepower of entire fleets activated around the ship's hull. The vessel itself was a masterpiece of Sectar engineering, built for one purpose: to dominate any battlefield. Back on the Endeavor, the cadets continued their exercise, unaware that they were about to face their first real test of combat. Torres watched with satisfaction as his crew worked together, coordinating their attacks and adapting to the enemy's responses. The holographic ships were challenging opponents, but the cadets were holding their own. Second wave incoming, announced Cadet Kim. 5 destroyers, attempting to flank us from port and starboard. Clever, Torres murmured. They're trying to divide our fire. Navigation, plot a course that keeps us facing the larger group. Weapons, focus fire on the port formation first. The Endeavor danced through space, her engines pushing her through maneuvers that would have been impossible for a larger vessel. The cadets worked with the kind of focused intensity that only came from months of training together. They anticipated each other's needs, communicating with brief phrases and hand signals. Commander Chen watched from her observer's position, proud of how well her students were performing. These young men and women would soon graduate to serve aboard real military vessels, defending human space from whatever threats they might encounter. She had no way of knowing that one of those threats was approaching rapidly from the outer system. The Sectar vessel dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of sensor range, its arrival masked by the natural radiation of a nearby gas giant. Admiral Thexvor studied the human ship through his tactical displays, noting the precision of their movements and the coordination of their attacks. Interesting, he mused. Their tactical responses are more sophisticated than our intelligence suggested. Perhaps these humans will provide adequate sport after all. As the alien ship began its approach toward the unknowing cadets, the stage was set for an encounter that would change the course of galactic history. Neither the experienced Sectar Admiral nor the Academy commander had any idea that they were about to witness something unprecedented. What happened when 200 young humans faced their first real battle while still believing it was just another training exercise? The exercise continued aboard the Endeavor, the cadets growing more confident with each successful engagement. They had no idea that their greatest test was approaching fast, and that their response to it would become legend throughout the galaxy. The moment everything changed began with a simple sensor reading that didn't make sense. "Commander," called Cadet Kim from the sensor station, her voice carrying a note of confusion that cut through the excitement of the ongoing exercise. "I'm reading a massive contact approaching from bearing 187 Mark III. It's not matching any known holographic signature." Commander Chen frowned and moved to look over Kim's shoulder at the sensor display. What she saw made her blood run cold. The contact was real. a ship larger than anything in the Terran fleet moving with purpose toward their position. The energy readings were off the charts, showing technology that was clearly not human in origin. "Cut the exercise," Chen ordered sharply. "All stop. Kim, full sensor sweep of that contact." Torres looked confused. "Commander, is this part of the simulation? New parameters?" "Negative, Cadet Captain. This is not part of any exercise." Chen's voice carried the weight of sudden responsibility as she realized they were facing first contact with an alien species. And not just any first contact, this species was approaching in what was clearly a warship. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of electronics and the quiet beeping of sensors. The cadets looked at each other with growing uncertainty. They had trained for many scenarios, but none of their textbooks had covered what to do when a real alien ship appeared during a training exercise. "Contact is slowing," reported Kim, her training taking over despite her shock. "Displacement approximately 200,000 tons. Energy signatures suggest advanced weapons and defensive systems. I'm reading weapon systems that are... Commander, their firepower rating is beyond anything in our database." Chen activated the ship's emergency beacon with a discreet command from her console. Help would come, but it would take hours for any real military vessels to reach them. Right now, the Endeavor and her cadets were on their own. The alien ship continued its approach, and Chen could see it now on the main view screen. The void render was a thing of dark beauty, its angular hull seeming to drink in the light of distant stars. It moved with the confident grace of a predator that had never known defeat. "Incoming transmission," announced Cadet Okafor, his voice tight with tension. It's not in any language I recognize." "Put it on speakers," Chen ordered. The bridge filled with a series of harsh, clicking sounds that seemed to come from a throat designed very differently from human vocal cords. The universal translator struggled with the alien language, producing fragments of meaning that gradually resolved into understandable words. "Human vessel." The voice that emerged was deep and resonant, speaking human standard with an accent that suggested the speaker had learned it from intercepted transmissions, rather than direct contact. "You will submit to combat trial or face immediate destruction. Your species' worth will be measured by your performance in battle. Respond within 60 of your time units." The cadets stared at each other in shock. Torres was the first to find his voice. "Commander, what are our orders?" Chen's mind raced. The ship was a training vessel with minimal weapons and defensive systems. Most of their equipment was designed for exercises, not real combat. They had 200 cadets aboard, young men and women, who had signed up to serve their species but who were not yet ready for actual warfare. But they were also the only thing standing between this alien ship and human space. "Cadet Okafor," she said quietly. "Open a channel." "Channel open, Commander." Chen straightened her shoulders. "Alien vessel, this is Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran Naval Academy ship Endeavor. We are conducting training exercises in this system. We have no hostile intent toward your species. However, we cannot submit to any demands for combat trials. We request peaceful dialogue to resolve this situation." The response came quickly, the alien voice carrying what sounded like amusement. "Training exercises? Your movements suggest military precision and tactical awareness. We have observed your vessel performing complex combat maneuvers for the past period. Do not attempt deception, humans. You will fight or you will be destroyed as cowards." Torres looked at Commander Chen with sudden understanding. "They think we're a real military vessel," he whispered. "They've been watching our exercise and think it was actual combat." Chen nodded grimly. The aliens had observed the cadets fighting holographic enemies and assumed they were seeing a demonstration of human military capability. There was no way to convince them otherwise without revealing just how defenseless the Endeavor actually was. "All stations," she announced to the bridge crew. "This is now a real situation. We are facing an unknown alien species that appears to be hostile. Our mission is to protect ourselves and gather intelligence for the fleet. Follow all training protocols, but remember, this is not a simulation." The words hit the cadets like a physical blow. Several of them went pale, while others sat up straighter in their chairs. These young men and women had spent years preparing for this moment, but none of them had expected it to come during a training cruise. "Commander," Torres said, his voice steady despite the circumstances, "request permission to treat this as a standard combat situation." "The crew is ready." Chen looked at her cadets, really looked at them. She saw fear in some faces, but also determination. These young people had volunteered to serve, to put themselves between humanity and whatever dangers waited in the darkness of space. They were about to face their first real test. Permission granted, Cadet Captain. Take us to battle stations. The transformation was remarkable. The same cadets who had been treating everything as an exercise suddenly moved with new purpose. The reality of the situation seemed to focus their training in ways that no simulation ever could. Battle stations, all hands, Torres announced over the ship's communication system. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. All personnel to emergency stations. Park's fingers flew over her engineering controls, bringing all systems to full power, converting training weapons to live fire mode. It'll take a few minutes, but I can get our particle beams operational. Do it, Torres ordered. Navigation, plot evasive courses. Tactical, prepare for defensive maneuvers. The alien ship was close enough now that they could see details of its construction. Weapon ports lined its hull like the eyes of some great predator. Energy readings suggested that it carried enough firepower to reduce the Endeavor to space dust in seconds. 60 time units have passed, announced the alien voice. You have chosen combat. Prepare to demonstrate your species' worthiness. Chen activated the ship's recording systems. Whatever happened next, the fleet needed to know about these aliens and their capabilities. The cadets might not survive this encounter, but their sacrifice could save countless lives if it provided useful intelligence. All hands. Brace for impact, she announced. Torres looked around the bridge at his fellow cadets, Williams at navigation, Rodriguez at tactical, Park at engineering, Kim at sensors, Okafor at communications. They had trained together, studied together, and now they would fight together. Remember your training, he told them. We've practiced for this moment 1,000 times. The only difference is that this time it's real. The alien ship opened fire. The first salvo missed the Endeavor by mere meters. Energy beams that could have vaporized a small moon passing through the space where the ship had been moments before. Torres had ordered evasive maneuvers at exactly the right moment, following patterns they had drilled during countless exercises. Return fire, he shouted. Park had managed to convert 2 of their training weapons to live fire mode. Particle beams lanced out from the Endeavor, striking the alien ship's shields in brilliant flashes of energy. The beams did no visible damage, but the aliens seemed surprised by the immediate response. Direct hit, reported Rodriguez. No apparent damage to their vessel, but their energy readings fluctuated. I think we caught them off guard. The alien ship came about for another attack run, and Torres realized something that filled him with both hope and terror. The aliens were treating this like a formal duel, following patterns and protocols that suggested they had rules for these combat trials, which meant the cadets might actually have a chance to survive this encounter if they could convince the aliens that humanity was worth keeping around. The battle for the survival of 200 cadets and possibly the future of human-alien relations had begun. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come, though no one would ever fully understand how it worked. The problem was that the cadets of the Endeavor were still thinking like cadets. This is incredible, shouted Cadet Rodriguez from the tactical station, as another alien energy beam missed them by a hair's breadth. The simulation parameters are amazing. Look at those energy readings. Torres spun around in his command chair, staring at his tactical officer in disbelief. Rodriguez, this isn't a simulation. That's a real alien ship trying to kill us. Rodriguez laughed, his face flushed with excitement. Come on, Torres. The Academy's been working on this surprise scenario for months. Remember how they talked about enhanced reality training in the briefings? This is it. They've got some kind of new holographic projector that can fool our sensors. Other voices joined in from around the bridge. The energy signatures are incredible. How are they making the gravitational effect so realistic? This is the best training exercise ever. Commander Chen watched in horror as half her bridge crew continued to treat the situation as an elaborate simulation. She tried to correct them, but their excitement overwhelmed her attempts to restore order. The cadets were so convinced that the Academy had developed some new training technology that they refused to believe they were in real danger. And that, paradoxically, might be the only thing that could save them. Fine, Torres shouted over the chaos. If this is a simulation, then let's show them what we can do. Park, I want maximum power to engines. I don't care if you have to overload the safety systems. You got it. Park's fingers danced over her controls with reckless enthusiasm. In a real combat situation, what she did next would have resulted in court-martial. She bypassed every safety protocol the Academy had drilled into them, pushing the ship's engines beyond their design limits. The Endeavour suddenly accelerated with impossible force, pulling maneuvers that should have torn the ship apart. The artificial gravity system screamed in protest, but held together through a combination of engineering skill and sheer luck. Aboard the Void Render, Admiral Thexfor watched the human ship's impossible acceleration with growing confusion. Tactical analysis of their propulsion system. Admiral, their energy output just increased by 400%. Their acceleration curve is beyond anything in our database. Either their technology is far more advanced than we believed, or... The tactical officer paused, his skin shifting to confused blue patterns. Or what? Or they have no regard for the safety of their crew. The gravitational forces they're experiencing should be fatal to most biological species. Thexfor's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. He had fought dozens of species across the galaxy, but he had never encountered opponents who seemed completely immune to self-preservation instincts. Either these humans were far more advanced than sectar intelligence suggested, or they were completely insane. Both possibilities were deeply troubling. Navigation. Plot an intercept course, Torres ordered, studying the alien ship's movements. They're following standard attack patterns from the Academy textbooks, predictable. Kim, do we have any intelligence on their weapon cycle rates? Kim stared at her sensor readings in amazement. Their weapons recharge every 47 seconds. Torres, the detail level on this simulation is incredible. They've programmed realistic power consumption curves. Perfect. That gives us a window. Williams, I want you to execute pattern Delta 7 on my mark. Williams paled. Torres, Delta 7 is theoretical. It's never been tested with a real crew. The stress on the hull, this is a simulation, remember? Torres grinned wildly. No real consequences. Let's see if the Academy's new training system can handle it. What Torres was planning was a maneuver so dangerous that it existed only in tactical theory classes. Pattern Delta 7 involved using the ship's artificial gravity systems to create localized gravitational anomalies around the vessel, effectively making it fall in multiple directions at once. The mathematics worked perfectly on paper, but no sane commander would ever attempt it with a real crew. Unless, of course, they thought it was all just a very elaborate simulation. All hands brace for pattern Delta 7, Torres announced. This is going to be fun. The Endeavour suddenly began moving in ways that violated everything the sectar understood about physics. The ship seemed to dance through space, accelerating in multiple directions simultaneously, following impossible trajectory curves that made targeting calculations meaningless. Admiral, the sectar tactical officer reported, his skin now showing deep purple stripes of alarm. The human vessel is... I cannot explain their movement patterns. Our targeting computers cannot establish a firing solution. Thexfor watched the human ship perform maneuvers that should have been impossible. It moved like a leaf in a hurricane, utterly unpredictable and seemingly unconcerned with the laws of physics. Communications open a channel to the fleet. Request immediate reinforcement, Admiral. These humans are not what they appear to be. Either they possess technology far beyond our understanding, or they are operating under combat doctrines that assume their crews are expendable. In either case, we need support. Back on the Endeavour, the cadets were having the time of their lives. Park had managed to convert 3 more training weapons to live fire mode, creating an improvised arsenal that no military engineer would have approved. Rodriguez was firing at the alien ship with enthusiasm that bordered on mania, treating each hit like points in an elaborate game. Direct hit on their forward shields, he announced gleefully. Did you see that energy discharge? The visual effects team outdid themselves. The improvised weapons were doing negligible damage to the massive alien vessel, but their unpredictable energy signatures were confusing the sectar defensive systems. Energy beams that should have been easily absorbed by their shields were causing cascade failures in their protective barriers. How are their primitive weapons penetrating our defenses? Demanded Thexfor. Unknown, Admiral. Their energy patterns don't match any known weapon technology. Our shields are designed to absorb standard particle beam and plasma weapons. These energy signatures are chaotic, random. Our defensive systems cannot adapt to something with no consistent pattern. The truth was that Park had created the most effective weapons in human history entirely by accident. By combining multiple training systems and overloading their safety protocols, she had produced energy beams that changed frequency and amplitude randomly. They were completely unpredictable because they were completely uncontrolled and therefore impossible to defend against incoming communication. From Fleet Command, reported the Sector Communications Officer. 2 additional vessels are being dispatched to assist us. Excellent, HFY replied, though his skin still showed nervous color patterns. When they arrive, we will coordinate a full assault. Even humans cannot survive against overwhelming firepower. What he didn't know was that his reinforcements would only make the situation worse. The cadets were about to face 3 alien warships, and their response would cement humanity's reputation as the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Torres, Kim called out excitedly. 2 more contacts approaching. The simulation is scaling up the difficulty. Torres studied the tactical display with the focused intensity of someone who thought he was about to set a new high score. Fantastic. Park, can you give me more power to weapons? I can try to convert the remaining training systems. Park replied, her hands flying over controls that were never meant to be operated in such ways. But Torres, if this were real, what I'm doing would probably blow up the ship. Good thing it's not real then. Torres laughed. Do it. As 2 more massive alien warships dropped out of hyperspace, the stage was set for the most unlikely victory in military history. The cadets of the Endeavor were about to face impossible odds with weapons that shouldn't work, using tactics that had never been tested, while being absolutely convinced that none of it was real. It was exactly the kind of insanity that would make them legends. The arrival of 2 additional Sector warships should have ended the engagement in seconds. Instead, it marked the beginning of something that would echo through galactic history, as the day an entire alien species learned to fear humanity. 3 contacts now. Cadet Kim announced with the enthusiasm of someone who thought she was witnessing the ultimate training scenario. Energy signatures are off the charts. The Academy really went all out for this one. Torres studied the tactical display with the intense focus of a gamer facing a boss battle. The 3 alien ships were positioning themselves in a standard triangular formation, clearly preparing for a coordinated assault. In any real combat situation, the Endeavor would have been doomed. But Torres wasn't thinking about real combat. He was thinking about theory. This is perfect, he announced to the bridge crew. They're using Formation Gamma Prime from the textbooks. We studied this exact scenario in Admiral Chen's Strategic Warfare class. Commander Chen, who was indeed related to the Admiral Torres referenced, felt a chill run down her spine. She knew exactly which textbook scenario he was talking about. It was the one where the single human ship was supposed to be destroyed as an object lesson in the importance of not fighting impossible odds. Torres, wait, she began. Navigation. Plot a course directly toward the lead ship, Torres ordered, cutting her off. Maximum acceleration. We're going to execute the impossible solution. Williams stared at him in shock. Torres, the impossible solution is called that because it's impossible. It only works in computer simulations, which is exactly what this is. Torres grinned wildly. The Academy wants to see if we're brave enough to try the solutions they won't let us attempt in real life. Well, here's our chance. The impossible solution was a theoretical tactical maneuver that existed purely as an academic exercise. It involved flying directly at a superior enemy force at maximum speed, then using the ship's artificial gravity systems to execute a series of maneuvers that would either destroy the enemy formation or result in the complete destruction of the attacking vessel. No sane commander would ever attempt it, but Torres was absolutely convinced he was playing the ultimate training simulation. All hands, brace for impossible maneuvers, he announced over the ship's communication system. We're about to make history. The Endeavor accelerated directly toward the 3 Sector warships. Her engines pushed far beyond their design specifications. What happened next would be debated by military historians for centuries. Torres began executing a series of maneuvers that had never been attempted outside of computer models. The ship spun, twisted and turned through space in patterns that seemed to defy basic physics. Park's improvised weapons fired continuously, their chaotic energy signatures creating a light show that confused both alien sensors and alien eyes. Tactical report. Admiral HFY demanded from the bridge of the Void Render. The human vessel is... Admiral, it's flying directly at us. At their current speed and trajectory, they will ram our ship in 47 seconds. Evasive maneuvers. All ships, scatter formation. This was exactly what Torres had been counting on. The impossible solution worked by forcing the enemy to abandon their coordinated positions, then exploiting the gaps created by their evasive maneuvers. It was brilliant in theory, but attempting it required either supreme confidence or complete insanity. The cadets had both. "Now," Torres shouted. "Williams, execute turn pattern Alpha 9. Park continuous fire on all targets." The Endeavour suddenly changed direction with impossible speed, diving down relative to the alien formation, just as all three ships moved to avoid the apparent ramming attack. Park's improvised weapons sprayed chaotic energy in all directions, creating a web of unpredictable fire that made coordinated movement even more difficult for the alien vessels. "They're breaking formation," Rodriguez announced with glee. "The simulation is responding perfectly to our tactics." What Rodriguez didn't understand was that the alien ships were breaking formation out of genuine confusion and fear. The sector had never encountered an enemy that fought like this, with complete disregard for their own safety and tactics that seemed designed to create maximum chaos rather than achieve military objectives. "Admiral," reported the communications officer aboard the Void Render, "we're receiving urgent messages from the other ships. Admiral Kethmore is requesting immediate tactical analysis of human combat doctrine. Admiral Velthek reports that their targeting computers cannot establish firing solutions." Thexavor's skin had shifted to deep purple with yellow stress patterns. "Communications, transmit a priority message to Fleet Command. Classification, extreme threat. Message, human tactical capabilities exceed all intelligence estimates. Request immediate strategic reassessment of species classification." Meanwhile, Cadet Okafor was monitoring alien communications with the innocent enthusiasm of someone who thought he was listening to very sophisticated voice acting. "Torres, I'm picking up some interesting chatter from the enemy ships. They're talking about impossible human tactical capabilities and reality-defying vessel performance. The detail work on this scenario is amazing." "I know, right?" Torres replied, not taking his eyes off the tactical display. "The Academy really outdid themselves. Let's see if we can give them something even more impressive." What Torres did next would become known in military history as the moment that defined humanity's reputation among the stars. Frustrated that the simulation wasn't providing a clear victory condition, he decided to force the issue in the most direct way possible. "Williams, plot a ramming course for the largest enemy vessel. If this is a training scenario, they'll have to declare an end condition before we actually hit them." Williams stared at him in horror. "Torres, that's suicide." "It's a simulation." Torres laughed. "The worst thing that happens is we get a bad grade and have to retake the exercise." Commander Chen finally found her voice. "Cadet Captain Torres, I am ordering you to—" "With respect, Commander," Torres interrupted. "This is my command exercise. The Academy protocols are clear. The designated cadet captain has tactical authority during training scenarios." It was true. Academy regulations gave cadet captains full authority during exercises to encourage leadership development. Chen had never imagined those regulations would be used to justify a suicide charge against real alien warships. The Endeavour turned toward the largest sector vessel and accelerated to ramming speed. The ship's hull groaned under the stress, but held together through a combination of excellent engineering and pure luck. Aboard the Void Render, alarms began screaming as sensors showed the human ship approaching at impossible speed. "Time to impact, 12 seconds, reported the tactical officer. "Evasive maneuvers. Maximum thrust. Admiral, we cannot evade. Their trajectory is perfectly calculated to our movement capabilities." Thexforce stared at the approaching human ship with something approaching religious awe. These humans were either tactical geniuses who could calculate ramming trajectories in real time, or they were completely insane. Either way, they represented a threat unlike anything the sector had ever encountered. Time to impact, 5 seconds. The massive alien warship, veteran of 100 battles across the galaxy, fled from a single human training vessel piloted by cadets who thought they were playing a game. "They're running," Torres announced with delight. "The simulation is programmed to have them retreat when we show superior tactical thinking." What he didn't know was that his victory was being broadcast throughout the sector fleet. 3 of their most powerful warships had been forced to flee from a single human vessel. The implications were staggering. The legend of human tactical superiority was being born, and it was based entirely on the actions of 200 cadets who had no idea they were fighting for real. As word of the engagement spread through alien communication networks, humanity's reputation as the most dangerous species in the galaxy began to take shape. And all because a group of young humans had been too excited about their training exercise to realize they were actually in mortal danger. The moment that changed everything came not with the thunder of weapons or the flash of explosions, but with a simple communication that no one saw coming. "Torres," Cadet Okafor called out, his voice filled with confusion. "I'm receiving a transmission from the lead alien vessel. But it's not what I expected." Torres was still grinning from their successful ramming bluff when the alien message came through the ship's speakers. The universal translator worked slowly, converting the harsh clicking sounds into words that would echo through galactic history. "Human vessel." Admiral Thexfor's voice carried a tone that the translator struggled to interpret. "Your tactical capabilities are beyond our projections. Your willingness to sacrifice your vessel and crew demonstrates a level of commitment to victory that demands respect." The bridge crew fell silent. Even the cadets, who were still convinced this was a simulation, seemed confused by the formal tone of the message. "We acknowledge the superiority of human combat doctrine," the alien voice continued. "In accordance with the ancient codes of honorable warfare, we formally surrender our forces to your command. We request terms for cessation of hostilities and negotiate for the safety of our crews." The silence on the bridge stretched for long seconds as everyone tried to process what they had just heard. "Did they just?" Cadet Williams whispered. "Surrender," Commander Chen finished, her voice barely audible. "They surrendered." Torres stared at the tactical display, watching as the three massive alien warships powered down their weapons and began broadcasting what any military officer would recognize as surrender signals. The reality of the situation finally began to penetrate his excitement. "This is not a simulation," he said quietly. "No," Chen replied. "It is not." The bridge erupted in chaos as the full implications hit the crew. Cadet Park's hands shook as she stared at her engineering controls, realizing that her improvised modifications had been performed on a real starship facing real enemies. Rodriguez had gone pale, understanding that his game score had actually been hits on alien vessels that could have killed them all. "Commander," Kim reported in a voice that cracked with stress, "I'm reading massive energy signatures approaching from multiple vectors. It's the Terran fleet." Chen activated the view screen, and the cadets gasped as they saw their rescuers arriving. Dreadnoughts and battlecruisers dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the authority of the Terran naval forces. At their head was the flagship Indomitable, her massive bulk bristling with enough firepower to sterilize a planet. "This is Admiral Rodriguez of the Terran fleet," came a familiar voice over the communications system. "TSV Endeavor, report your status immediately." Chen straightened her uniform and activated the response channel. "Admiral Rodriguez, this is Commander Chen aboard the Endeavor. We have an unusual situation to report." What followed was the most surreal first contact briefing in military history. Commander Chen found herself explaining to the Admiral of the Terran fleet how 200 Academy cadets had accidentally forced the surrender of 3 alien warships because they thought they were participating in an advanced training simulation. "Let me understand this correctly," Admiral Rodriguez said, his voice carrying the weight of someone trying to process impossible information. "Your cadets engaged 3 hostile alien vessels in combat and forced their surrender while believing the entire engagement was a training exercise?" "That is correct, Admiral." There was a long pause. "Commander, I need you to maintain communications blackout regarding this incident until further notice. This information is now classified at the highest levels. We're dispatching diplomatic teams immediately." Over the next several hours, the Endeavor became the center of the most important diplomatic mission in human history. The alien Admiral Thexfor was brought aboard under careful guard for face-to-face negotiations. When he saw the youth of the human crew, his skin shifted through color patterns that the translators indicated meant profound shock and religious awe. "These are your elite warriors?" he asked Commander Chen through the universal translator. "No," Chen replied carefully. "These are our students." The alien's forearms trembled slightly. "Students. Your students defeated 3 of our most experienced battle groups." "They didn't know they were fighting a real battle," Chen explained. "They thought it was a training exercise." The silence that followed was so complete that Chen could hear the hum of the ship's life support systems. When Thexfor finally spoke, his voice carried a reverence that made the universal translator struggle with emotional nuances. "Your species trains its young by having them fight impossible battles for practice," he said slowly. "And they succeed because they do not understand that failure means death." "That's one way to interpret it," Chen admitted. The negotiations that followed established the framework for what would become known as the Kepler Accords. The sectar hegemony agreed to a comprehensive non-aggression pact with humanity, based primarily on their conviction that humans were too dangerous to fight and too unpredictable to understand. Word of the engagement spread through alien communication networks at the speed of light. The story grew with each telling, becoming a legend that painted humanity as a species of tactical geniuses who fought with such incredible skill that they could defeat superior forces while treating the battles as training exercises. The cadets of the Endeavor found themselves the unwilling heroes of a story they were forbidden to tell. They were sworn to secrecy about the mission details, but their graduation ceremony became the most attended event in Academy history. Every major figure in the Terran government wanted to shake hands with the young men and women who had accidentally established humanity's reputation as the most formidable military force in the galaxy. Cadet Captain Torres received a field promotion to lieutenant and was fast-tracked for command training. Cadet Engineer Park was recruited by the Navy's Advanced Weapons Division, where her talent for improvised modifications would revolutionize human military technology. The entire crew received commendations that they were told they could never explain to anyone, but the most significant consequence was something no one saw coming. Within 6 months, recruitment for the Terran Naval Academy increased by 400%. Young humans across the colonies wanted to be part of an organization that could train students so well that they could defeat alien battle fleets by accident. The Academy quietly modified its training protocols, adding new courses in unpredictable tactical thinking and adaptive problem-solving under extreme pressure. They never told the instructors what had inspired these changes, but somehow the Academy's graduates began developing a reputation for creative solutions to impossible problems. Meanwhile, the sectar hegemony began a galaxy-wide campaign to warn other species about human tactical capabilities. Their reports described a species that could perform impossible maneuvers, use chaotic weapons that defied conventional defense systems, and fight with such reckless determination that they would attempt suicide charges rather than accept defeat. Every species that received these warnings came to the same conclusion. Humanity was too dangerous to fight. The irony was perfect. The greatest victory in human military history had been achieved by young people who succeeded precisely because they didn't understand how impossible their success was supposed to be. And the legend that grew from their accidental triumph would protect human space for generations to come. In the classified files of Terran Fleet Command, military strategists began developing what they called Academy protocols, tactical doctrines based on the principle that sometimes the best strategy was to act like the rules didn't apply to you. They never realized that the greatest military innovation in human history had been discovered by 200 cadets who thought they were just playing a really good simulation game. The stars themselves seemed a little brighter after that day, as if the universe had recognized that something special had happened in the Kepler 442 system. Humanity had taken its first step toward becoming a legend among the stars, and they had done it by accident with style, and with the kind of innocent courage that only comes from not knowing that what you're attempting is impossible. The cadets went home as heroes. The aliens went home as converts to the religion of human tactical superiority. And somewhere in the files of the Academy, Commander Chen wrote the most unusual after-action report in military history, ending it with a single line that would become the unofficial motto of the Terran Naval Forces: success through superior confusion.